Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our episode number 11 of the podcast People First, the Heart of Business. This podcast brings together voices from those who support, uplift, empower, and work with people every day. I am Gabriela Castro Smith, a cross border talent solutions and business advisor with Trade in Motion. Today, on our podcast, People First, the Heart of Business, we are honored to welcome an outstanding guest who is widely recognized in Mexico for her commitment to people's and business growth, Sipele Alapai. Good morning, Sipele. Thanks for being our guest.
Hello, good morning, Gabriela. Thank you for having me.
Sipele is an American citizen living in Querétaro, Mexico. She is the executive director of the Global Chamber Queretaro, as well as the director of Global STIX Solutions. But something very interesting about her is that she is an entrepreneur. She created and opened businesses as well as an English school in Oaxaca, Mexico. As I mentioned before, she is the executive director of the Global Chamber Querétaro. So on this podcast, we would like to discuss about people, about workforce, and about global business. Sipeli, what do you think? Well, first, I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us what your story. What are you doing in Querétaro, Mexico, if you are from Hawaii?
Yes, that's a common question that I get. Um, so I started my journey in Mexico. I am Hawaiian, and but I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and lived many years in Iowa. So that's where you get this wonderful Midwestern accent. And I actually moved to Mexico in 2016. So I was following love. I married a Mexican man, and followed him. He had gotten deported in 2015, October of 2015, and w- I was kind of like going back and forth between Mexico and the United States, and we were trying to figure out how to keep our family together and what this needed to look like moving forward. And at the end of the day, I was working for the government at the time in the United States and for the school districts. And I finished up my contracts and at the end of the school year in 2016, and me and my kiddos moved to Oaxaca, Mexico. We started in Puerto Escondido, and then as beautiful as it is, and even though I'm Hawaiian, I really appreciate air that's not so humid that I can't wear makeup and can't straighten my hair. So um, I moved to the city of Oaxaca, which was absolutely beautiful, fell in love with it, and started my journey in Oaxaca, and now I'm in Querétaro almost 10 years later. So it's been a long, wild ride in Mexico. Absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out, but I fell in love with Mexico, so I've stayed. And I've found some great ways to create new businesses. Had a lot of opportunity here in Mexico for me and my kiddos, and I'm excited to be doing what I'm doing here in Mexico and bringing global business here to Querétaro and here to Mexico.
Great, Sipeli, and you're doing a great job and a great job with Global Chamber and working for companies and making the new generation grow in Mexico to see how different cultures can be, but at the same time, when you do business, you can grow as much as in other countries, other people are growing. So tell us, as you know, I am a cross-border advisor and a talent advisor, and we see a big challenge in the US and Canada regarding workforce. It's hard to find talent that are really committed to stay in a company working for a long period. It's hard to find skilled people. It's hard to find skilled technicians. And we've seen in many industries. I work a lot in mining, and we see a decline in uh, students wanting to start to become a mining engineer wanting to study a trade, to become a trade or a skilled technician. The new generations are not interested on this career, but we see like the baby boomers are retiring very soon. They are beginning to retire. In the next 5 years, they will be retired. And what are we going to do? What,
Yeah.
what, what will happen with this gap that companies will have? And companies are competing one with the other in many industries because it's the same uh, technicians, the same trade, the same engineers that we need in all industries. So there's a big competition now at this moment, companies competing within other companies and bringing the workforce from one company to the other. And at the end, the industry is really hard. They have to train every 3 months all the people that are moving. So you that are in Mexico, Sipele, what do you see that the three countries together as they have a treaty, the three countries together, how can they help each other to fulfill this big gap in the US and Canada?
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree, Gabriela. Really, since I've been here in Mexico, one of the things that I noticed very early on is there was so much potential in the workforce here. And I started my journey actually working in coffee shops, and I was starting up coffee shops. And so I got to work with some food service employees, and there's so much passion in these kids and so much potential in this youth here in Mexico and really good morals and values and work ethics. And they just needed the right type of motivation um, and be able to kind of think bigger and dream bigger. And as I then started the schools and got to work with more children and got to work with teachers in this industry and young people coming out of college to start their careers. And then as I moved into Q-Town Business Solutions, where I started working with more professionals and a lot of actually deportees that were coming over here from Mexico that grew up in the United States and knew that as their culture and their home and had English just as fantastic as mine because they went to the same schools I did. I seen all of this workforce potential here in Mexico that were making horrible wages. They weren't making enough to survive, let alone build a future upon, and really aspire and dream big. And so that's really what drove me and became my force into why I wanted to create business here and why I wanted to bring global solutions here because I knew what was happening in the United States and I knew what was happening in Canada in the way of workforce um, and you could see the trends, the types of diplomas that students were getting, the types of degrees that students were getting in the United States, there was going to be a shortage at some time. At the same time, what was happening here in Mexico is Mexico was starting to invest in those very degrees that you talked about in engineering and technology and trade schools. So you started to see this influx of trade schools coming into Mexico and this influx of promoting engineering degrees. And now we're at a point in Mexico where we're graduating more technical engineers than the United States is. So there's this huge, huge potential here with Mexico. that, in addition to the remote solutions that companies are now finding for professional services, where you can hire remote talent and back office staff and call center staff, with the same level of English, because you can hire deportees here and they can handle your business solutions from Mexico at a fraction of the cost. You can now source your IT talent that is getting high, they're graduating more, and they're at the top of their class here in Mexico. And Mexico is slowly building and slowly building. They're seeing a manufacturing need in the United States and Canada. So now they're putting more infrastructure and design into getting manufacturing technicians, getting manufacturing engineers trained up. So I see that Mexico is really taking advantage of the fact of knowing where their partners above border need help and training and building those solutions down here. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity to really eliminate the borders in North America and to do international business amongst these three countries. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting to be an American on this side, being able to help coordinate and build that environment as well, and to help this youth understand what it is and what potential they have, because they're truly needed in North America right now.
You are right. I agree with you, Sipel. It's a great opportunity for everyone, and it's a win-win situation. I mean, the US and
Absolutely.
Canada will have the talent, and Mexicans will have the opportunity to have a different job, a better job. So I think it's a win-win situation. And we have seen in the last years how IT nomads are moving to Mexico. What is the impact that you see because them from the US and from Canada moving to Mexico and
Yeah.
working remotely from there?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And the impact, it depends who you talk to. Because there's a lot of positive impact with digital nomads coming here. Definitely on a business perspective, there's some great positives. Rents and all of those types of things that impact gentrification. Those are maybe some of the negative impacts. But as a business employer, really, Mexico is becoming a hub of workforce, because not only can you hire amazing bilingual Mexican talent, but now it's opening up the floodgates to be able to hire Americans, Canadians. I just read a statistic a couple of days ago that as of 2025, there are over 700,000 Americans living in Mexico. And we're not even out of 2025 yet. And we see this trend just multiplying, monthly. Just people coming in droves. And it used to be a retirement community that was coming over. And now we're seeing professionals, digital nomads, families relocating. So the workforce has really just sprung open here in Mexico. So not only can you get all of that great Mexican talent, you can now get international talent with international languages, international skill sets for a fraction of the cost, because they're living here and they don't need those same salaries in order to compete and live well here.
So do you think that now, at this moment, the there's a language barrier, there's a cultural barrier, or do you think that Mexicans are gra- grasping the American lifestyle or the American culture and the same way as the language culture?
Being here for almost 10 years, yeah, there's definitely been a huge swing. And I would say that it also depends on the location here in Mexico. You're seeing impacted places like Querétaro, Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, some of those big hubs where there's really nowhere I can't go and find somebody that speaks English. And English is heavily promoted from preschools here as a bilingual or multilingual option in all of the school choice here. So I think that has been adapted, and I think it's not because of gentrification that that's happening. It's because Mexico understands where they are globally. And they have come leaps and bounds just in the 10 years that I've been here, to be a global leader. And it's not the same third world country that people used to classify Mexico as. This is a booming economic, billions and billions of dollars are being invested into Mexico and into Querétaro. We've got data centers coming in. We've got places like Amazon, huge Chinese manufacturing companies for automobiles. So it's not just America and Canada that's taking advantage of what's going on here in Mexico. European countries, Chinese, all of those businesses are coming here in droves because of the opportunity that's sitting here. And I think that language is slowly impacting, and you're going to see it more prevalent in some industries over others. But as we get more globally sound, as we have more foreign investment into these manufacturing jobs and into business and into finance sectors, you're going to see a lot of bilingual and English education being taught in the schools. And now if you just look for through LinkedIn or through Indeed, you'll see that they're starting to look for Portuguese, and they're starting to look for German and French and other languages spoken. And so I think it'll be a melting pot soon. Uh, and it's fantastic because Mexico has so much opportunity.
I was surprised. I've been doing research together with my assistant on the schools, trade schools and technical schools in Mexico. And as you mentioned, there are many new schools opening because of the big need in North America. And what I was really surprised is that they teach English in every semester. I mean, English is one of the subjects that they study. So it's really great opportunity for students because they can have choices. They can work in Mexico, they can work in the US, in Canada, and also they can work in other parts of the world if that's what they want. So I think that it's, as you said, Mexico is moving fast, is taking the opportunities and growing as a country.
Yes, absolutely. I think, unfortunately, Mexico is in a place where as fast as they move, they can't keep up. And so we are constantly seeing this drive for them to move faster and go faster. And, with the infrastructure alone and trying to um, build up their power supply and make all of these things happen as fast as business is coming in, it's nearly impossible, but they're trying to meet the impossible. And the same thing with the language schools. And one of the things that I truly love about this culture is, sometimes you get pushback from young people and they're like, oh, why do I need English? Or why do I need this? No, the kids that I see and that I work with every day, they're passionate about learning English. They're excited when they meet a white person or meet an American or meet a Canadian. So that they can practice their English. And so they're excited to be able to have the opportunity to have more languages, and they're enthusiastic when they get to use that language. And so it's not something that you see everywhere. Some people see it as a burden to learn another language or to try to speak within that language, including myself. I struggle in Spanish. But what I see with this culture and this community is that they embrace it. They love their culture and they stay steadfast to the culture and the Spanish and the Mexican um, brilliance that is here, but they're open and willing, and they know that English is going to help open doors for them. And so they're very engaged in learning and exceeding, and they take the opportunities where they can get them.
And now they have the opportunity to work with transnational companies so that they can practice their English. They can live other kind of cultures that when I was beginning working, there was not that transnational companies. There were some, but not the way it is Mexico now. It was a different Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my, I think, best experiences here in Mexico is as I was working in the call center industry and getting to work with young people that either they themselves were deported from the United States or somebody in their family, and they were relocating back here and they were lost, and they didn't know this country and they didn't know this environment and this culture, and they're trying to figure out how to adapt to the life in Mexico and the culture in Mexico, but then how do they utilize their schools, their skills to make money here, because the money, it's shocking at first, going from US dollars to Mexican
Yeah.
pesos, and trying to figure out, well, how do I build a life out of this? How do I create a future here? And it's heartbreaking as you see some of that, because it's like the hope drains out of them. And as they start learning that, wow, wait a second, the English that I learned and the culture that I understand can help me make money here and can help me advance. And I can use that to catapult myself into other positions. And so it's like this light bulb turns on, and all of this opportunity is sitting at their feet. And so it's just helping them understand and embrace that and being able to run after it, because they've got that American drive and mindset. It just needs to be utilized and applied. And so it's great to be able to see that all of their skills are pairing off, and they can have an amazing life. They don't have to try to figure out a path back to the United States. They can utilize the skills that they've
Yeah.
accomplish there and learn there and be able to be hugely successful and create a wonderful life for them and their families here.
Fascinating, Sipele. And I know
Mhm.
that you help people to grow that way, to see the opportunity and to bring, instead of saying, I spend less money, you say, no, I think how I can make more money. Do you have an example of how you have helped people to think differently, to change their mindset, to bring more money to their pockets?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I do is when I started working in Mexican companies, I have to tell you, my first examples of leadership and probably my first year in leadership, I failed miserably, miserably, because I didn't understand how to work with the culture and how to motivate the culture. And so as I started learning, and I got into a Mexican business ran by Mexican leadership, and I was trying so hard to navigate their system and understand their system, that I wasn't applying my own principles and my own morals and my own values of how a business should be run. And once I made that indication to myself, and once I realized that that was the problem, I needed to change the way that we were doing business. I needed to help them understand that there was a different way and a different method, because most people here in Mexico, you get a job, you show up to that job, you're told what to do during your 8 hours of that job, and then you clock out and you go home. And a job is nothing more than a means to a paycheck to support your family. And that's really what the true understanding of work is here for most people. And so when I was getting these people, they would show up and they would do their job, and then they would clock out. When I realized that I was trying to do business as a Mexican, but I'm not a Mexican, I was failing at it. When I realized that I can change that, I can do business as an American, and I can help teach these young people how to think like an American, because we're working for American companies and we need to get American results, then it changed. Then I was able to identify and help them think bigger. If you ask a Mexican, what do they want to do? What are their goals? They're going to tell you that their goals are to support their family, to buy their mother and dad a house. If you ask an American kid that same question, it's, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a president. I want to be a CEO. So one group is thinking about caring for their family, very external, not worrying about them, but worrying about their family. The other group is very intrinsic and worrying about, what am I going to be? What am I going to do? And so while I think it's beautiful that they think of their family, we had to create a space where they could think of themselves too. What kind of success do you want? Where do you want to accomplish? And so when I first sat with my first group of managers and leaders, and I said, okay, I want you guys to tell me how much money you want to make in 3 years. The majority of them said, I'm okay with what I make now, or I'd like to make a few thousand pesos more. And I said, okay, what kind of position do you want? I just want to work for you. There was this no drive, like, I don't want you to work for me. I want you to want my job. And when I started getting that mindset into their head, that's when things changed. When they could think bigger, and it was okay for them to tell me, you know what, Sipele, I want your job. Great, because
Yeah.
if you've got my job, that means I'm higher and I'm bigger. So I want somebody with that drive and that passion. And once they started getting that mindset where, wow, I can really do this. I can be bigger. I can tell you that I want this and you'll support me and you won't fire me and
Yeah.
you won't get mad that I'm competing with
Yeah.
you. No, it's not competition. We're in
Yeah.
this as a team. I'm here to help you get there. And so it really started opening eyes and opening hearts and driving kids. And so when they started thinking bigger and they gave me the next step of that was, okay, well, now I want a salary of this much. And then I thought, oh darn, how am I going to get them to a salary of this much? And helping them career path and helping them identify the steps that they need to take and the responsibilities they need to have in order to accomplish those. And so as I started these leadership trainings and growing my management team and seeing them accomplish those little tiny steps and then get to the big, I have kids that were started with me making 6,500, 7,500 pesos a month. And now I've got project managers in other companies that are making 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 pesos a month. And it's a completely different life for them. They never in a
Of
million
course.
years dreamed of that. And now they're living it.
Mhm.
And they're young. And so they've got time to go bigger and go higher. So,
Wonderful. Great,
yeah.
great story, Sipeli. And as you say, that's our job. Our job is not only to make them work and you work for me and my company grow. No, you have to grow with the company. If not, what's the purpose of working here?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I found that is amazing about the Mexican culture is that if you invest in them like that, and if you motivate and inspire them and show them that you're along the ride and you're there to help them and guide them, they are your employees for life. The loyalty factor here is absolutely amazing. You had talked about retention and having to train people every 3 months uh, because of people jumping ship and going from one company to the other. That is not this culture. If you teach them and you come alongside them and help them grow, they're your employee for life. They value that type of dedication and leadership.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's good news for the US and Canada.
Yeah, and that's what I tell, the flip side of this, the other amazing side of the work that I get to do is, so I get to work with this youth and work with this Mexican population, but I also get to work with business providers who are frustrated and have so many barriers and so many obstacles in running their business. And they're just, how can I come to Mexico? And some of them come to Mexico and they fail miserably because just like my first year was horrible, their first experience is horrible in Mexico because they don't understand the culture. They create contracts with companies that don't understand the expectation of American business. Working with American business is hard. Understanding their expectations because Americans have expectations and they don't want excuses. They just want results. And
Exactly.
so, when you're building a contract here in Mexico with a Mexican company, what you expect and what you think is quality is completely different than what a Mexican thinks is quality and what their expectations are of how to get to that point. So, that's how a lot of companies fail. They think that, okay, I'm just going to come to Mexico, I'm going to get this contract, I'm going to tell them what they need to do, and they're going to provide it. And for for the majority of Mexican companies, they're not going to meet those requirements. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some investment, or it's going to take an intermediary like myself and the professionals that I work with to help you get those results, because there's a barrier. There's several different kinds of barriers in the way uh, to really doing business here. But once you get through those barriers, it's the best investment you're going to make for your company.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So let's talk about nearshoring now that it's a
yeah.
big boom in Mexico.
Yeah. So, it's like I can see this because I'm on the ground every single day here in Mexico, and I can see all of this. But I'm not the only one. And that's why nearshoring has just exploded here in Mexico. Like, companies are seeing the potential, and especially small businesses and medium businesses in the United States and Canada, they see that if they want to keep their businesses open, they've got to think and do things a different way. They've got to be able to think outside of the box and get creative solutions in order to get the results that they need to grow and to expand and to meet their own requirements. So we've seen that industry over industry, and manufacturing has really just exploded. And when manufacturing explodes, so all of these warehouses and auto parts supplies and technology support, supplies and aerospace, and all of these warehouses are now coming to, and manufacturing plants are coming to Mexico. Then all of a sudden you see kind of this trickle effect. Then you see nearshoring and logistics and transportation services, and nearshoring and other components and other industries to supply and support manufacturing. And then you start to see that same trend happening on the business side. With remote work is huge. Digital nomads are huge, and realizing that you can do business cross border for a fraction of the cost. What's costing you 18, $22 an hour for a secretary, for those non-operational roles, which are back office, which are support, which are the backbone of your company, which you need, but you can't afford a ton of money on because they don't bring in the revenue. Nearshore is the solution for that, because nearshore is going to be able to reduce those costs for you so that you can keep running and you can put your focus and your money into the pieces that get your results, which is your manufacturing and which is your operations. So no matter where your manufacturing and operations are, if you can nearshore some of those professional services, your fintech solutions, your back office solutions, then you're instantly cutting money out of your budget and getting a return on your investment. And like I said, because you have Canadians living here, you have Americans living here, you have deportees living here, you can get that same level of English, you can get that same professional skill set right here in Mexico for a fraction of the cost.
Wow. So a
Yeah.
big opportunity for companies that want
Yeah.
to invest in Mexico and manufacture in Mexico.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of people know that, right? And they hear it all the time because nearshoring is this big word now, but a buzzword. But there's like so much skepticism too that you get.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
and there's so much drawback, like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to Mexico. What about the cartels? What about this? What about? And it's like, so until you get feet on the ground here, until you're working with someone like myself, where they can really give you insight into the industry and how to do it. I would never just sign a contract and start services here in Mexico. There's good ways to do business in
Yeah.
Mexico, and there's not so good ways to do business in Mexico. And so I think that you need a partner, you need a collaborator to get started. And then whether or not you choose to hold the reins and manage it yourself as a company, or you want to use that partner to manage your company, um, all of those options are available, but you need somebody here on the ground. You need somebody who understands the culture and the economics and the business and those types of things to help you get grounded and help you have a soft landing here in Mexico.
Yeah, I agree, Sipele. They need help. Companies wanting to invest in Mexico, they need help from people living in Mexico. And also they need to know the regions. They need to know, depending on the sector, is the region that you would like to establish your manufacturing. So they need to know many things before investing in Mexico, or as you said, before signing a contract.
Yes, absolutely. Because any contracts where you're doing the business in Mexico, it's going to be under Mexican law. And you need to understand and know Mexican law because it's very different than US law.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about hiring employees, the benefits, the employment laws here are really structured towards the employee. So it gives a lot of benefit for them and a lot of liability for the companies. And so you need to understand those laws and what that means impact wise and decision making wise before you start a company here. And there's a ton of ways to get started. You can get started with a employer of record. You can get started by establishing your own
Yeah.
entity. You can get started by having a partner that manages all of that for you, like a consultant company. So there's a lot of ways to get started. It's just doing it in the right way, uh, according to your own guidelines, timelines, and what results you're really looking for. So,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah,
To have
but
a plan
yeah,
together with your partner in Mexico, to have a 5, 10 business plan and go step by step, guided by someone in place.
absolutely. And I started an English school in Oaxaca. But if I ever were to start a nearshoring operation where I was going to start a call center, even though they have English schools in Oaxaca, I would never put a call center in Oaxaca. If you want staff, just kind of going back to what you said about region matters and location matters for the type of industry and sector that you're working in. So if you're wanting a call center, you want to go somewhere where the English is fantastic and where you have a large pool of English speakers. So big cities like Querétaro and Guadalajara and Mexico City and Monterrey, Tijuana, those are the cities where you want to put it, your call center operations or where you want to find your staff. But if you're looking for manufacturing, you might want to go closer to the border like Chihuahua or Nuevo León so that you can get something that's very cross-border and the logistics are easier to manage. Um, or if you're doing it on a strict budget, you might want to come this way to Central. So like Querétaro or Puebla, because you're going to get better land prices. So it just really depends on what you're looking for and what problems you're trying to solve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good, Sipele. I want now to talk about your role of Executive Director of Global Chamber Querétaro. What's your role? What what you can do for companies wanting to become global, because as we know, Global Chamber has 525 chapters in 195 countries. So it's a huge, really, business network. So what's your role as executive director in Querétaro, and how you can help companies to become global and companies wanting to take advantage of nearshoring?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined the Global Chamber, I was looking for a chamber of commerce and a way to do business with other businesses, and we were doing a little bit of global business at that point, and so I wanted to not only use it as a way for me to do business, but I wanted to create a connection here in Querétaro for other companies to be able to do business globally. And as I was researching and looking into different chambers, I came across the Global Chamber. And the thing I think that really helps Global Chamber stand out is the way that we network and the way that we provide warm introductions. It's unheard of in almost every other Chamber of Commerce. In Chamber of Commerce, we all know those networking events that you attend, and then you hand out your business cards and you hope to get a meeting with them, and you hope that turns into business. Global Chamber kind of turns that on its head and it says, we're not about the in sell, we're about the connection, we're about the relationships that you build. And Global Chamber allows you to connect to professionals around the world, just like you, and create lasting relationships that help you build your business. So it's not just chasing the dollar or chasing the incel. It's about creating a community of people that feeds. And I was managing a technology company where I truly didn't have to have a sales pipeline anymore. I got to be, uh, the Global Chamber was my sales pipeline. I built so many great relationships that they were bringing me business. So I didn't have to sit on a phone and do sales and try to reach out and send emails and do mass emailing. I had a sales pipeline that came to me and just constantly referred me business, referred me business, referred me business. And I said, wait a second, there's an idea here. And because as great as I am, I didn't have all the answers for nearshoring. I was a staffing genius here. I was a workforce genius, but I was just one small part of a bigger business. And that's really how the Global Chamber Queretaro started to form. We became an advisory board where we are now able, we're professionals across every industry. So we have lawyers and we have accountants and we have manufacturing experts and we have um, architecture experts and everybody that you can think of that you need to do business with to start nearshoring is in that advisory board. And that's what we do is if you're thinking about starting a nearshore solution, if you want to come to Mexico in any way, shape, or form to do business or to get expertise, then you can come directly to the Global Chamber Querétaro and get your needs met. And that's what we want to help companies do business in Mexico. And we want to help Mexican companies launch worldwide and give them that kind of confidence. It's kind of a two-way street, right? Like Mexico is slowly becoming global. Mexican companies are slowly understanding the importance of global reach. And so we get to kind of be a teacher for them, a role model in helping them pave the way and think bigger and stronger, just like those employees that I talked to you about.
Mhm.
On the flip side, we get to take international and global companies that really just need to understand how to bring their business here in the best, smartest way. And we get to bring those services here and help them align and learn from and get through all the red tape and learn through all the mistakes that we've made already so that they don't have those rough landings, they have a soft landing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful in all North America and around the world because you will Global Chamber Querétaro will be helping companies in Mexico expanding to other markets and companies around the world investing in Mexico.
Yes, absolutely. That's our goal, and our advisory board is committed to that. We are a small team of professionals over all of these different industries, but we are very dedicated and passionate to that. We believe in what the Global Chamber is doing, and we believe in Mexico and the ability. And I think that's the driving fact behind it is we know that Mexico is where to do business, and we want to help you do that.
Thank you very much, Sipele. We are at the
Mhm.
end of our podcast. If you want to say some final words.
I again, Gabriela, thank you so much for having me on the podcast and getting to be part of your People First series. I'm excited to reach out and help your audience be able to nearshore or answer any questions that you have. Please feel free to share my information, and I hope that we can connect again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. I'm Gabriela Castro Smith from Trade in Motion and Sipele Alapai from Global Chamber Querétaro. Have a good day.